Well, good day there. This is Joe Van Cleve. Hey, welcome to my little darkroom here. And I have a project that I was going to be doing that I wanted to share with you sort of as I'm doing it. Well, a little bit, a few minutes after I started it. But so last night when I was sitting in the office waiting for my 34-minute video on the typing assignment to upload to YouTube, I had this crazy idea to write a short story. And I had my Underwood portable typewriter, the 1930s typewriter, with me on the desk, and I felt very inspired because of the typewriter to write this short story. And what inspired me on this story was that I have a little infestation of tiny little ants crawling through a crack in the wall from somewhere outside, and they were crawling on my desk and bothering me while I was editing the video. And so I had this idea for a story about ants, and so you'll see in a minute what I'm doing here. But so I needed to make an illustration for this story. I'm going to scan the typewritten sheets, put them on my blog, and I usually put an illustration at the top of my blog whenever I'm posting a typewritten material. And so I wanted a pinhole camera that was small enough that I could get down close to the ground, and you'll see why here in a minute. But so I went through my little bin of old pinhole cameras, and I remembered I made this little cardboard camera a few years ago, made from, you can buy this thin cardboard at hobby shops, and black gaffer's tape. And so the way this works is, of course, I use a rubber band to just hold it together, but it has a 4-inch square image area, but it'll hold a 4x5-inch sheet of paper, and you simply put the paper in there and then you close the camera up. Pinhole is operated by a cardboard sliding shutter. It's an f226 pinhole. Very short, maybe 1.5 inch focal length. Now, when I designed this camera, I kind of made a mistake. I forgot that pinhole images invert themselves. All camera lenses will create an upside-down image, if you will. So, my original intention was to have 4-inch square image, off-centered on a 4x5-inch piece of paper, and then you could contact print it. But I should have made the 4-inch image down here instead of up here, because what you have is an upside down image on this aspect ratio. But anyways, I could modify the camera, but what I do basically is I just scan these anyways and just create square format images. So I have this little camera. I'm going to be, instead of operating it on its bottom like this upright, I want to get it closer to the ground, to my surface, so I'm going to put it on the side. And let's go outside and see what scene it is that I'm going to photograph. Okay, we're out here in my backyard, and so I needed a little diorama because I have these little garden ornament ants. These are little ants made of welded metal wire and round kind of river rock pebbles. And so what I'm doing is I have this plywood base that I've clamped to my tripod, and it's aimed up at my side of my house here, and I'm using this plywood surface as kind of a foreground with kind of a horizon here. And so what I'm doing is putting the camera here, and the trick when you're using cardboard cameras is, you know, the cardboard kind of is soft and flexible, and so you have to find a way of making it stable. So I have an old block of wood I've clamped to the plywood base. I'm going to clamp the camera itself to the piece of wood like that. So now the camera is stabilized. The ants are very close to the pinhole because it's such a short focal length. You can imagine what the angle of view is. You have to get these things really close, like that. And then there's the horizon. You have to get things lit well, so I have sunlight, direct sunlight hitting on the ants' faces. But they're fairly dark. They're not going to show up that well on paper because they're dark tones and they're kind of brownish tones. This will be kind of bright, and of course the sky is going to be really bright. So I ended up shooting, the first image was partly cloudy. We had some morning clouds, and it was a 1 minute exposure. This one, now that it's sunny, I'm doing about a 25-second exposure, and I'm pre-flashing the paper. I'm using grade 2 resin coated paper from Freestyle Photo. Okay, so for metering the scene, this is an F226 pinhole, and the maximum F number that my meter goes up to is F90.7. And so you need a calculator, and what you do is you go 227, which is the f-stop of the camera, divide by the maximum f-stop your meter reads, and then you square that. On this calculator you just go times equals. Then you multiply that by whatever meter reading the camera or the meter indicates, in which case this is 4 seconds. So 4 times that number is, in this case, 24 seconds. I rounded up to 25 seconds. And of course I'm using, on this resin coated grade 2 paper, I'm using an ISO of 12, which works for me. So let's go in the darkroom and see how I process the paper. So under safe lights, I'm going to open the camera, take the rubber band off, and split the box apart. It is fairly tight. Take the piece of paper out if there had been one in there. And then for quick and expedient data turns, what I mean by data turns is being able to get a piece of paper processed quickly, evaluate your exposure, and then maybe go out and reshoot, because my light is pretty consistent. I have everything set up. If I don't get the right exposure, I can just go back and reshoot it. So for expedient data turns, it's good to have some kind of tray processing already set up in a darkroom configuration. It's better than doing it on a rotary tank, because the rotary tank, after every time you use it, you're going to have to wipe out the inside, dry it out, and it kind of takes longer. So I have this little 3-drawer cube stack, a storage stack, and it'll hold 4x5s very easily. You can actually do 5x7s, but it's a little tight. And so I have, as you've seen before in earlier videos, I have developer on top, stop F in the middle, fixer on the bottom. You put something heavy on the top of the tray. In the back I have a bottle of stop bath, just because when you pull the drawer out with liquid in it, it's going to want to be front heavy and tip over, so you want to put some weight on the back here. The other thing you want to think about is sequestering your tongs. Make sure you don't reverse contaminate the developer with the tongs that have been used for the fixer and stop bath. So I always keep my developer tong, so like sitting on top of here. The stop bath tong is here, and then the fixer tong is on the water tray, which is over here. This is my water rinse. After the prints come out of the fixer, they go here as a holding bath. So I did 3 images, and they're currently washing. And instead of wasting water by running the water in the sink and just pouring the water down the sink, this is the desert Southwest. We always have to think about water conservation. So let's go out front and I'll show you how I'm rinsing these prints. Okay, here we are out in the front yard. Now, in the Southwest here, because we have a dry climate, a lot of houses have evaporative coolers, which are known colloquially as swamp coolers. And we have a couple swamp coolers or evaporative coolers. They're cheap to run and easy to maintain. You don't need to call a professional usually when you have issues. But anyways, one of the things you have to do with evaporative coolers is you want to run an overflow line. There's a tray of water in the cooler, and you want to replenish the water, so you want to use up some of the water. So I have a little 1/4 inch plastic hose running off my roof, and I intermittently will run this. I'll open it. Usually I keep it closed with a clothespin, but I'll sometimes open it up and run it underneath my tree right here and water my landscaping while the cooler's running. I don't do it all the time, but you know, whenever I think the tree needs to be watered. So, having said that, here is my little plastic container where I have my 3 paper negatives in, and I have my little water thing in there, so I'm basically flushing the negatives, washing them, letting the water overflow the tank, and it's watering the tree because all of this area is underneath the canopy of the tree. So there's roots underneath the tree. I'm watering the roots. So let's just take a real quick look at these pictures, shall we? Okay, this first negative was taken under partly cloudy skies, and it metered for 50 seconds, and I gave it a 1-minute exposure. And so you can see my sky is dark, but I still have some detail in it, and there is barely visible detail in the shadows. Now this paper was pre-flashed for about 8 seconds under my light source, so it helps to control the contrast and you get more shadow detail out of it. Okay, let's look at the second one. The second one was under bright, sunny conditions, and it metered for 24 seconds. I gave it a 25-second exposure, but what I failed to do is I didn't pre-flash it. So you can see without pre-flashing, the shadows are paper white. All you have is the highlight detail and a little bit of midtones, and so it's super high contrast and not very good. So under the same lighting conditions, the same 25-second exposure, two different looking images. They're both under the same lighting conditions, both are given the same in-camera exposure. The only difference is this was not pre-flashed, this one was pre-flashed. And as you might be able to tell, you have a lot better shadow detail. You can see the detail of the ants and everything. So I think it's a pretty cool result, and I have to finish rinsing these and then take them in to dry them, squeegee and dry them, and get them into the office and scan them on my scanner and see what kind of results we have as positive images. Okay, so here is the first image that was exposed for 1 minute under partly cloudy conditions, and you can see it has a fairly good tonal range. Now, I inverted the image positively using the preview function in the Mac operating system. It's not really as good as doing it in Photoshop. I don't have a copy of Photoshop right now on my computer, but I was able to adjust the contrast, brightness, and all the tones adequately, not perfectly, but this is kind of what it looks like right now. I'm fairly happy with it so far. I could contact print this in the darkroom and probably get a better quality image, but overall it's not really too bad. You get an idea of what it looks like. Well, here is the second photograph. This was exposed for 25 seconds. It was metered for 24 seconds. It was bright sun instead of slight overcast. And the ants are closer to the pinhole camera, so they loom a little bit larger in the foreground. This image was inverted again in the Mac OS. Using the preview function in preview, you can invert images in using the histogram. It's not ideal. It really needs Photoshop work to be a better image, but it's pretty good, as you can see. I really like it. It has a really good effect to it. So I'm really happy with what I've done so far with this ant project. Well, this was a fun little project today. It started out last night with a creative inspiration to write a short story. And I had my Underwood typewriter right there on my desk, right at hand. And so the first lesson is always have your typewriter available, right? Because there's something about the mechanics of writing with mechanical device like a typewriter that brings out the creativity in you. And secondly is having written this, typed this story, I wanted to illustrate it with a pinhole photograph of these ants. And so this was a great opportunity to delve back a little bit into pinhole, get into the darkroom a little bit more, use some paper negatives. Now, I might have thought about using Harman direct positive paper because I could have gotten a direct positive image without having to resort to scanning it and inverting the tones. But as of this date, Harman Ilford in England is having manufacturing issues, and the Harman direct positive paper is not available. It's not on the market. So I only have a fixed amount of this paper available in my darkroom, so I don't want to use it up except for real special occasions or whatever. So got plenty of negative paper, the regular photo paper that I can use. So, and the photo paper is this kind that I'm using, the grade 2 RC paper is faster, certainly. Well, this was a great project for me. I enjoyed combining story writing on manual typewriters, typecasting the finished results onto my blog, which reminds me down below, if you, I'll have a link for my blog article that will include one of these photographs along with the story itself that you might want to read. I think I'm going to use the second of the two images, the one that was photographed in the brighter, harsher sun. The tonal range isn't quite as nice as the first one, but the ants were closer to the camera, and so they're a little bit bigger. So I think I'll use that second image. Okay, until next time, you guys have a great day and stay creative. Joe out.